Hello, my name is Barbara Lizzie McFarlane, and for my final PRM project, I interviewed the nonprofit organization Grand Canyon Wolves. The lady in charge, Miss Emily Wren, is the executive director of the organization and a graduate of NAU. She has a degree in wildlife biology, but her role in the organization are so much more diverse and far-reaching than just administrative work. The list of things that she does for the organization includes program work, coordinating volunteers, submitting comments on the Mexican wolf policies, creating events and outreaches to get the general public involved in wolf recovery efforts, making sure the nonprofit is in compliance with IRS standards, and handling donations and grants. Since the organization is so small, the only job they outsource is their books, which a certified accountant looks over and verifies. The organization, Grand Canyon Wolves, was founded in 2005 and has spent the last 15 years trying to conserve the wolf populations. Efforts, such as their main event, which they call Wild and Scenic Film Festivals, has been fundraising for this nonprofit through the community for the last 10 years. When asked about the mission of Grand Canyon Wolves, Ms. Wren said that they strive to help the wild wolf populations thrive again. Her main concern was to reverse the damage done to the wild wolf populations in the past years by both the public and researchers. The mission of the Grand Canyon Wolves is to bring back the wild wolf populations and restore the ecological health of the ecosystems there, of which wolves play a large part. When asked why wolves were so crucial to the environment, Ms. Wren stated this: wolves are a keystone species in the ecosystem, so they play a disproportionate role in the health of that ecosystem as they are top predators. Wolves are the missing component in our landscape today because at one point they were here historically, she went on to say. The main struggle? Getting everyone on board, as wild wolf populations are often a controversial topic. It's like we haven't really resolved all the threats that they face from humans, she said. Her hope is that organizations such as Grand Canyon Wolves can erase the stigmatism that threatens the wild wolf populations so they can once again be wild. If this can be achieved by organizations such as Grand Canyon Wolves, the hope is that it will set a precedent for the future, both of the ecosystems the wolves are returning to and for other conservation efforts. The Grand Canyon Wolves' main event to help fundraise wolf conservation efforts is the Wild and Scenic Film Festival. This is a large festival that is held nationally, and every year Miss Wren negotiates tour packages for the rights to show the documentaries and films for the event. Flagstaff, Arizona is then added to the films tour, which starts in California and is held annually. And once the Grand Canyon Wolves are given the go-ahead to host the event, Miss Wren's job begins. As she starts organizing and working with volunteers, marketing, and negotiating with local and national vendors to make sure that the event goes off without a hitch. Once that is settled, she works locally, looking for locations and dates the event can be held so she can begin sending out invitations and coordinating marketing materials. According to Ms. Wren, this event hosted about 200 people before the pandemic hit. When I inquired further, Ms. Wren stated that in the past year, she had been able to secure places such as the Orpheum Theater and Coconino Community Center for the Arts to host this in-person event, as it held enough space for that many people. When the event had to be on Zoom in 2020, however, due to the pandemic, she claimed that a lot of things changed. And though Miss Wren admitted it was nice to host the event in her pajama bottoms and not have to worry about catering or finding a physical place to host events, as she had to when doing in-person events, she had other problems to tackle. Things such as engagement of audience, how and where to live stream, and whether platforms like Zoom would have the capability to handle the amount of people in attendance became her new concerns, which she had to overcome to put on this event. When it comes to running large events like this, Ms. Wren stated that the key things to keep in mind were community outreach and marketing. After all, events are really about the people who come to help support the efforts and missions of the nonprofit. For Grand Canyon Wolves, this meant getting the word out through paid advertising, which included printed ads in newspapers and Flag Live, or running radio ads on KNAU radio stations before an upcoming event. However, this changed once the pandemic hit. Ms. Wren admitted that they had to adapt and overcome as companies they had relied on for advertising changed their methods of reaching audiences or went virtual. Grand Canyon Wolves quickly found that some of these companies became less effective marketing tools, as patrons who had come to their event before the pandemic came back to support the organization, but fewer new people were being drawn to the event. And those who did come were only being drawn in by word of mouth from those donors who had come before. This meant that Grand Canyon Wolves wasn't expanding its audience, which told administrators like Ms. Wren that the marketing strategies that had worked in the past weren't as effective as they had been. So, to remedy this, Grand Canyon Wolf's solution became advertising around the Flagstaff community instead. Ms. Wren said that by narrowing their target audience, they were able to broaden their outreach to the community. When I asked what this looked like, she said it was more outreaches to schools, universities, and families, as well as handing out comp tickets to recapture interest. It's not a foolproof method, she admitted, but since the pandemic, Grand Canyon Wolves has been trying to reinvent themselves by updating their technology outreach methods, such as social media, to continue the upward trend in attendance, which they hope to see in future years, even if the event has to be virtual. If you are interested in the conservation efforts of Grand Canyon Wolves, you are encouraged to get involved. Volunteers are always welcomed, I was assured. The message of Grand Canyon Wolves is personal involvement. It is important that everyone gets involved in wolf efforts, whether that be through education, funding, or joining events such as wild film festivals to show support. There are many different trips and events beyond the film festival which could connect you to this great nonprofit should you be interested, such as the Big Lip Lake trip over the summer, which Ms. Wren talked about organizing. In this trip, families and those who sign up go camping as a large group of 50 to 80 people. Grand Canyon Wolves puts on this trip in partnership with the Apache tribes, and those who attend get a better understanding of nature and the wolf population organizations, such as Grand Canyon Wolves are trying to protect, as you engage with nature. The Big Lake or White Mountains of Arizona are host to populations of wild wolf packs, which Grand Canyon Wolves hopes to see back in the Grand Canyon areas should their conservation efforts prove successful in future years. If you are interested in this, the film festival, or any additional events held by this organization, you are encouraged to get involved by visiting the website on your screen, calling 928-202-1325, or emailing Miss Emily Wren, or even doing physical notes to the P.O. Box in Flagstaff. Thank you for listening to this presentation, and we hope to see your support for this organization.